My name's Adele Onyango, and welcome to another episode of Legally Clueless. No, seriously, I have no clue what I'm doing, but I'm pretty sure I'm not the only one. Hey you, welcome to this episode of Legally Clueless. This is what's coming up.
One of my cousin sisters would tell me, if you have a stomach pain, just put your head on your laps and that curve, wherever that bend, would stop the pain. So I didn't have my seatbelt on and I just sat like that. She came into the car and not even 5 minutes or 10 minutes, we had a tire burst. But then it went and just took 3 big rounds. It flipped. 3 times. In my mind, in all those seconds that it happened, I was like, okay, so we're no longer going to Nairobi. So this means we are straight going to the hospital. When it stopped, I found myself on the other side of the car because I'd sat behind the driver. And I remember screaming, Jesus, please help me. Jesus, please help me. And then it occurred to me, girl, why is everybody else silent? I looked at them and I was like, please help me. The pain is unbearable. Please help me. It was so painful.
That is part 1 of Patricia's story, who is joining us from Tanzania. It's so awesome to hear stories from there because I see you guys really listening to the show. So this is how we show you love. We're going to get to her story in a bit. However, I hope you're doing well. I really do. I really, really do. I hope you're moving with an air of gratitude, regardless of what your circumstance is, whether you're going through a challenging time, whether it's a beautiful season. Gratitude. Hey, I've not found anything else more grounding than that. Now, before we get into Patricia's story, I need to tell you about something really special that we have coming up, which is our wellness talk on the 11th of April. My personal therapist, Faith Guchu, who I sometimes lend to you, is going to be our guest speaker, and it's dubbed Becoming the Woman You Want to Be. If you have not listened to last week's Midweek Teas episode, you need to give it a listen, because Faith came on and we spoke about some of the topics she's going to be unpacking in the wellness talk. Basically, what we're looking at is going back to your childhood wounds, right? To be able to start unpacking what happened there that is leading you to be repeating certain patterns in your adulthood that are stopping you from becoming the woman you want to be. One of the patterns that we talked about is how you constantly find yourself dating the same type of person. I know I'm shouting because I'm also shouting to myself. This is a pattern I only just recently gained the courage to nip in the bud, okay? Because my work with Faith, we went back to my childhood. We started to uncover my childhood wounds. Everything made so much sense. I was armed with the knowledge, with the self-awareness, which is a lot of the work. And then now I had to have the courage to cut that pattern out, you know? And anyway, so some of the things that she talked about as to why you're probably dating the same type of person. We talked about many things, but the 2 that stand out to me is probably in childhood, you were conditioned into trying to earn love. Your primary caregiver maybe would only be kind to you if you got certain marks in school, or if you did your chores, or if you were constantly being conditioned to know that you don't get love for simply being you. You have to put in that work. You have to earn love. And so you become this adult who gets into relationships with people who create an environment where you have to earn their love. You have to overgive. You have to over-explain. You have to over people please. Do you get what I'm saying? And you are running on this hamster wheel. It's breaking you, but it's what is familiar to you. And the brain will choose familiar, no matter how unhealthy, over something new. Sometimes you don't even realize you're in that pattern. Scary, right? The other one, which is the one that oh my God, this is smack where I was at, is this feeling of fear of abandonment. Oh my days. I can't tell you how this one plagued me. So much so, I did not know how to be alone. Guys, I really didn't know how to be alone. I really didn't know how to be alone because not being with someone would resurrect the feeling of abandonment. And so in relationships, the pattern that would repeat for me is I would just be blind to red flags. Like I would see a glaring red flag and be like, it looks a bit like maroon. you know, because admitting it's a red flag would mean this relationship potentially has to end and I'm going to feel abandoned. I don't want to do that. So I'm going to say this is more of a pink flag and we're going to keep it pushing. And that was a pattern. Like in my relationship, I would like sit in that relationship. And then after everything goes to shits, I'm like, oh my God, I could have left this space so many red flags ago, but I stayed because I didn't want to bring up the feelings of abandonment that were birthed in my childhood. Those are just some of the patterns we talked about. And it wasn't only around relationships. We looked at how childhood wounds even affect how you're arriving in your business, in your work, how your career has been limited, how your identity, like your relationship with self, is just being harmed. We're going to be diving into these topics and so much more on the 11th of April, right? And I would really want you to come because I think a huge chunk of liberating yourself to being the woman you want to be includes us going back to our childhood and really taking a closer look at those childhood wounds. And I'm so happy that Faith is going to be leading this because we did that work, her and I, for my own personal work. So tried and tested on me. And I can say this is that kind of inner work that changes everything. It changes your relationships, your friendships, your career, how you show up for yourself, and so much more. Now, we are already 50% sold out because we try and limit the numbers to our wellness talks so they're intimate enough for you to feel safe. I don't know how this has happened. We're 50% sold out. I was talking with our events lead, Mercy, and I was just like, I don't know what's happening. Like, tickets are flying. So if I was you, I would grab my ticket right now. We put a link in the description. It's virtual, meaning wherever you're listening to this, you can join in. April 11th, 10 a.m. East African time. If you've been feeling like this is my season to do things differently, hey man, this is your sign. Come through. Let's jump into Patricia's story. Well, part one of her story. My goodness, it's heartbreaking. It's a heartbreaking story. And she does this thing that I also do where we laugh when we're feeling the most pain as we tell a story. And I just felt so drawn to that because I could recognize myself in it. But this story takes us to an experience in Patricia's life where she was forced to pause her life completely for close to 2 years. 100 African stories on Legally Clueless. Stories from Africa.
My name is Patricia Mativo. I am a recent graduate from the University of Oxford. So I was born and raised in a family of 2 kids. That was just me and my twin brother. And that was a place in Mbeya, Tanzania. So we stayed there for quite some time. Then when mom had to go do her master's, she dumped us in a good way. She dumped us at a boarding school as nursery kids. And yeah, so going home was only during the holidays. My experience growing up with my twin brother, I mean, we were just 2, me and him, and probably mom would come during her holidays, and being raised by our cousins who would call them sisters or brothers was good. Yeah, so nursery boarding, then we started primary school. Mom still took us to boarding. So my life has been a boarder throughout, yeah, a boarding student. Me with my twin brother, we would go to the same class, same stream. I don't know what teachers fancied. They just felt like because they're twins, they can stay together, in the same stream. But I mean, I didn't have an issue about it. I graduated first well, completed my class 7, grade 7. In Tanzania, you only go up to class 7, then, go to high school, yeah? So there's a point where we transitioned schools and my twin brother had to repeat a certain class. So by the time I was completing my class 7, he was in class 6. But thankfully, he was able to skip class 7. So we started high school together. But at this point now, he went to a boys' school, I went to a girls' school, and everything was fine. I think I was just a girl who, I think I was a very different version of who I am today. I loved dancing, and it was in a manner that people actually loved how I used to dance, because most girls, would twerk, wind their waist, but the way how I would dance, people were like, you know how to dance, yeah? I mean, latest trends would come, like Daggy, and they'll call me, Trish, come and dance here, and all that. It used to be fun. So, other than seeing myself as a dancer, actually, I was sort of looking at an angle where I would become a model. Yeah, and my mom had actually started nurturing me into that angle. I remember when we were little, just before I went to school, she would tell me, okay, no catwalk as J-Lo. I used to love Jennifer Lopez, well, I still love her. And she'd boost my ego, and I would like, catwalk. And she's like, yeah, they got J-Lo. And I'm like, that was some talent she was raising. So for me, my life was just catwalking, dancing. But again, I was very good in academics. That was just something that was very easy to me. And I was more of a science person. Plus, also the high school that I went to, it was just a science based. Because in Tanzania, you have schools that are more of probably agriculture based or business based. But then mine was just purely science. Of course, there's the mandatory subjects that you have to take. But our school was like, nah, us strictly just science. We're not having those extras. Yeah. Then all the way until my third, no, Form 3. Look at me saying third year. So in Form 3, I was very excited that finally, oh my God, I'm getting to complete this school system. Then I got to, university, freedom life, and all that stuff. So during the holidays, again, it was very exciting period. It was one of my favorite holidays that I was looking forward to, because we were paired into teams and we had to go do a project, yeah? And so that when we come back as Form 4s, we would present. I don't know if they would give us marks, or I don't know if it was part of the pre-examination. I have no idea what it was, but we were supposed to do some projects. I was very excited actually about this project. One, because I and my team had decided that we were going to go to the international airport in Tanzania, Julius Nyerere International Airport. We were physicists, so we wanted to go do something to do with engineering stuff, etc. Yeah, and I was like, you know what that means for me being in Dar es Salaam? Mom was going to come to Nairobi earlier. Of course, I was gonna join her during the Christmas holidays, but for me, she was going to leave me in Dar es Salaam first. So it meant that I was going to be alone, a lot of pocket money, travel alone. I never used to have that because it was strictly boarding school, home. Home, at times they'll pick us, and if they'll not pick us, depending on the school that I went to, one high school then, and the other primary as well, it was a boarding school. So they had a system where buses would come to our school and pick us during the closing day, dump us at where our parents will pick us. So it was like there was nothing in between where I could do whatever I want. So this time around, I was like, this is very exciting. It's just going to be me in Dar es Salaam, and everybody loves Dar es Salaam, yeah. And me and my friends, no family, no parents. So weirdly, again, when mom came to pick me actually during that holiday, she said we have actually a very long trip to do before, I live in Dar es Salaam. So she said, okay, we're going to go to Tanga. Then from Tanga, we'll go to Dar es Salaam. Then from Dar es Salaam, we'll go to Mbeya. Mbeya, that's where my grandma is. That's where I was actually born. Yeah. And then from there, say hi to your grandma and your auntie. Then we passed by briefly again in Dar es Salaam. Then it was for me to remain in Dar es Salaam or to decide to go with her all the way to Nairobi first, because one of my stepsisters was coming from the USA. And for me, by then, I had never been to an airport. And I was like, this is an opportunity for me to be in an airport. I mean, of course, I was going to go to the Julius Nyerere for my project, but this is Kenya. But also, it's just being fishy. I mean, this meant going to Nairobi and coming back alone. More pocket money. Yeah, so all that trip went as planned. Yeah, Tanga, Dar es Salaam, Mbeya, Mbeya, Dar es Salaam. Then from Dar es Salaam, we stopped by Tanga briefly, yeah. And mom used to work there as a district executive director. I don't know what that means here in Kenya. So she went to do some small items that morning, including going to the bank, picking some money. So that morning, weirdly, so we arrived there the previous night. Then that morning, the following morning, it's the one that we were supposed to travel to Dar es Salaam, yeah? So basically, we made a stop in Tanga. That morning, I woke up with a very weird stomach pain. I mean, it was very weird. It didn't feel like it was an upset stomach, like I was going to have, whatever that is. Plus, also looking at, what we ate was just basic stuff. We had this street food in Tanzania called chips mayai. I mean, that's still my favorite street food. Yeah. And I'm like, that can never make somebody, have an upset stomach. And anything else that I ate was just mangoes. And everybody else was just fine. We had the same thing. So for me, it just felt so strange. Then mom came to me in the room and she's like, "You're not waking up. Do you want to go with us or not?" She said it in a tone of which she felt like I was being lazy to just wake up. But for me, I was like, I'm actually just sick. But when she talked to me in that voice, I was like, it's fine, whatever. I went, I prepared myself real quick. I remember I just dressed for the sake of dressing. I just put something on top of me so that I was not naked because I was feeling very odd, weirdly. So we start our journey. Mom makes a stop somewhere just before Same, and it was her friend. At that point, I was still mad at her because why did she talk to me in that manner? Then we were with my cousin then, and he came and asked me, "Are you okay?" I told him, "No, I'm not okay." And so one of my cousin sisters would tell me, if you have a stomach pain, just put your head on your laps, and that curve, or wherever that bend, would stop the pain. So I don't know how that is, but for me, I think mentally I was telling myself it would stop. So I didn't have my seatbelt on and I just sat like that. So after mom was done talking to her friend who I didn't even bother seeing or saying hi to, she came into the car and not even 5 minutes or 10 minutes, we had a tire burst. I'm saying this as if it's something normal. Yeah, we were just, driving. And of course, my cousin, by then I'll estimate was around probably mid-20s. And, the drive, the adrenaline, the speed. So when the tire burst happened, my heart, of course, skipped a bit for a moment and was like, I really hope it stops, because at times on the road and probably the car steps on something and, you get a little bit off and then the car is just okay. But that day, my heart was like, I really hope it stops. But then it went and just took 3 big rounds. It flipped, or whatever that word is. Yeah, 3 times. And in my mind, in all those seconds that it happened, I was like, okay, so we're no longer going to we're no longer going to Nairobi. So this means we are straight going to the hospital. And I think that's it. It's crazy that until today, I never lost consciousness in that accident. Till today, maybe that's what can explain why probably I'm a brilliant student, or I don't know. I really don't know. So when the car rolled 3 times, then it stopped. Me thinking all those things about now we just have to go to the hospital, you know. And when it stopped, I found myself on the other side of the car because I'd sat behind the driver. And I remember screaming, Jesus, please help me. Jesus, please help me. And then it occurred to me, girl, why is everybody else silent? And I just kept quiet for a moment. I was like, dear God, I hope it's not what I'm thinking. Now, before I even finished that statement, my mom was just outside. Like, the car had actually thrown her out and my cousin as well out. And she had lost consciousness. And When she regained it, the first thing was Trishi Mwanangu, Trishi Mwanangu. And when I heard that, for me, I was like, oh, thank God. Like, I didn't want to overthink that, oh, probably those could be, God forbid, the last words I hear. But for me, when I just heard, I was like, oh, thank God. Oh, yeah. So Trishi Mwanangu, it means Trish, my child, Trish, my child. So those were the words that came out of her mouth. Like, she just thought of me and then she kept quiet. But for me, so long as I heard her say those words, I was like, oh, she's fine. Then I look on to my left, I see my cousin on the road. The doors of the car were closed. The windows were not broken. It was just very odd. But then I look at him, there's a car coming very fast, and I think it's them, they were just focusing on the car where I was in, because it had skidded all the way to the other side. So they had just probably noticed an accident from a miles. They saw probably dust. And so when they're coming, I would assume the driver wasn't focusing on the road as much, but focusing on the accident that happened on the side. So before, he almost hit actually my cousin as well. So they had to like stop there. And so then they stopped. Yeah. So then this truck came. They call the ambulance. So one ambulance comes, and so they had to now put us in a manner of, actually, no, it was not an ambulance. Now I remember. It was another pickup car that was coming throughout from the other side of the road that decided to take us to the nearest hospital facility. So my mom and my cousin, they sat in front. Yeah, one in front and one in the back seat. Then they took me and they put me at the back of the truck. And one of the guys was holding me. And I just remember I couldn't sit straight because it was too painful. The pain on my back was too painful. And every time they'll probably hit a bump, or it was just unbearable. Yeah. Then they took us to the hospital, this nearest facility, probably to the dispensary. And I remember feeling thirsty. I don't know why, when maybe it was effect of shock as well. I don't know. But they say that when people get into an accident, don't give them water. So instead they had to give me drip. I couldn't drink water. So now the girl who came to put a drip on my palm, on my hand, yeah, it's as if she was an intern or something. She just didn't know where to place it, and eventually there was a big lump on my hand. But in my mind, I'm like, the pain that I'm experiencing on my back, that's nothing. But then it was too painful to a point where I remember looking on my right, yeah, and there's this family that they were visiting the sick patient. And of course, new people just came in, lots of drama, so they're also focusing on me. I looked at them and I was like, please help me. The pain is unbearable. Please help me. And it was so painful that I thought probably if I said that, I don't know, somehow they could help me and the pain could go. Yeah. But they just looked at me and they said, Pole, which means sorry. Then later, this nurse comes in. They're used to probably getting people who have, been involved in road accidents, so their sense of urgency is not as fast. But for me, then I was expecting, I really need help, do something for this pain. But there was nothing they were doing. Then later, one of the head nurses came, and she was like, yeah, their ambulance to transport them to the referral hospital is here. So that's when the ambulance came. Yeah, it was one ambulance. It was me, my mom, and my cousin. So they arranged us in a manner of, my mom was, well, laying facing the driver, yeah? My mom was on my right side, and I was in between. Then my cousin, they had now put him to face the door. So it was three of us in the back side of the ambulance. Oh, there was no beds on that ambulance. Yeah. And then my mom, my mom started saying things randomly from the hospital. So from where the accident happened, Same, to Kilimanjaro International Airport in Moshi, it was probably around, I don't know, 2 hours or 1 hour. I don't remember. But I remember her, she would say so many things as if she was just saying her final words, her goodbyes. So I was 16 then. And in my mind, I'm like, there's no way this woman is going to speak all these things while I'm here. So I started preaching to her. I don't preach, but I was like, Mom, don't worry. Things happen for a reason. We're almost there. And at times I would try to reassure her by asking the driver, say, we're almost there, yeah? And the driver would be like, yeah, we're almost there. She said so many things. And my mind was like, woman, please just stop. But in my mind, I was, of course, just trying to preach to her. Things happen for a reason. God knows why this has happened. It's going to be fine. We're okay. All the way until to the hospital. But mind you, all the way while I was still trying to talk to my mom, every time the driver would hit a bump, I would experience some very sharp pain. I mean, already I was in pain, but wherever I would hit a bump, it was like it was accelerating the pain. But it's because I'd actually injured my backbone. So, and I was lying, and it was just very sensitive. But there I was acting as if I'm not in pain at all, but I had to, be there for my mom. And we get to the hospital finally, and the doctors get to be briefed, and one was like, okay. Then one of the doctors that was told that she said that during the accident she had experienced some stomach pain. Yeah, but now it's somehow gone, which is true. After the accident happened, my weird stomach pain had disappeared. So then the doctor's like, I'm not so positive with this one. And he felt maybe it was like some internal bleeding or whatsoever. So they go do a scan. There was nothing wrong with me, with my stomach. They literally had to do an ultrasound. There was nothing. And for me, it's crazy because this pain was only there like throughout the morning when I woke up, which was very unsettling. Then when the accident happened, I couldn't feel that stomach pain again. But of course, I had to brief the doctors that I was experiencing this at some point, just in case. So we get to the hospital. They took my mom, they took my cousin, and they're like, you know what? You have to stay in the main ward because, the rooms are filled up right now. So you just stay here. I was just a girl. So I was like, it's fine. So what they didn't tell me was they just didn't want to tell me where my mom was going. So my mom actually had gone to ICU. And in all that week, they would tell me, we're still looking for rooms. My mom was in ICU. So the report that I got later, she had started turning colors, and it felt like, God forbid, yeah. But I think them not telling me, it also did well for me because in my mind I'm like, yeah, I'm just waiting for a room to come and for me to go meet with my mom. But thankfully, after that 1 week, that's when we were in the same room with my mom. And I remember that's the day that she was brought out of the ICU, but I was not told. But when she came, she had injured her hip, and I think when she was removed from the car, she hit her head, and therefore she had like a very big bump here on her forehead. And so even for her, walking then was a bit painful. But that woman, the day she came out of the ICU, she held onto the walls of the room just to try and locate where I was seated. She was like, how are you, and everything else. And I mean, I think my mom can do anything even at her last point just for me. So when I saw her, for me, I was like, she was just in another room, but she's just here coming to check up on me, not knowing my mom was she was fighting for her life. Then we stayed in the hospital, and these people, I mean, I can't blame them. I mean, I can't blame Africa. I mean, there's so many things that we have been colonized to a point where when we start getting our own freedoms in terms of, education and getting the right, you know, procedures to support certain patients. So for my case, it was a spinal injury, yeah. And even in Kenya by then, they were not yet there. So in Tanzania, they said, she's just a young girl, and with nerves, just let her lie on her back. It will rejoin slowly. And the only thing that they gave me was a pink tablet. I still remember it because it was the only thing that they gave me, a pink tablet. And they said, she's just young, she'll be fine. And the only thing that they would start doing is a little bit of therapy. And I would only experience this therapy when the medical students were doing their rounds with their teachers, and the teacher would say, okay, now this patient, she's experienced this and that. So she would probably need to do therapy so that she doesn't forget muscle memory and all that stuff. But in terms of anything else, they had only done an X-ray scan, and the ultrasound, which was to basically just see if anything was wrong with my stomach, and the X-ray was just for them to see the level of the impact of the injury. Then that happened in December, exactly December 8th. Yeah, so December 8th, at times I look at it as if it is my new birth date, because since then I now started being identified as somebody with a disability. But that's the day the road accident happened, yeah? So now, I remember while we were at the hospital, there's this Christian song. I think it's Unikumbuke Unapodhuru Wengine. I would sing to that song. And there's the other one which I don't remember, but it basically meant that by the time it's New Year, like everything should be fine. So I remember I would just have it in my mind throughout and praying that, by New Year everything will be fine. But New Year came, we're still at the hospital. Yeah. Oh, then I should tell you now about my twin brother. By then he was in Nairobi. They took my twin brother. They told him, hey, we have to go to Tanzania. I mean, initially they're expecting us, yeah? Because it's the day that we were going to go to Nairobi. Then they just tell him, oh, we need to go to Tanzania. They didn't brief him. Then they come all the way to the hospital. My twin brother thinks that it's just a usual routine that as family, we have to go see somebody else at the hospital who we don't know. At times, you just get up and you go to the hospital, see somebody who you don't even know, but probably it's your mom who knows or your... So they come with him to the hospital, and the first thing he sees is me on the bed. And I remember by then my auntie was feeding me, and I was eating and puking because I think my body was just in too much shock, and I just couldn't. So I was eating while laying down, everything. So he just walked in the same time where I was eating, then puking at the same time. And it was just too much shock for him. And he started crying. And then my aunt was like, you're crying. Why are you crying? Do you want her to give up right now? And my mom, I'm like, come on, be easy on him. But till today, I still thank God that it's me who was in that accident and it was not him, because I don't think I could have survived seeing him going through all that. So while we're in the hospital, I think Patrick is just a strong person. So my twin brother is called Patrick. So I got to a point where I was actually happy when he would come. He would eat my food, because by then even eating was not something that I was enjoying as much as they'll try to bring what I would like. So they'll come and he'll eat mtori. Mtori is a local food in Tanzania, mostly for the Wachaga. Wachaga is a tribe there. But also it's very nutritious. It's given to, mothers so that, they lactate well, but also to patients because it's very nutritious. It's a mixture of bananas and meat, but how they make it, it comes out like a porridge. But trust me, it sounds better than how I'm explaining how they prepare it. Yeah. So he was very comfortable, and for me, it gave me hope that he has accepted this already, and I'm like, at least it was me, not him. Then January went by. Then now February, Dad was like, oh, okay, now we just have to move hospitals because I don't see any progress here with her. It was just a pink tablet, and she's a young girl. Don't move so much when you're on the bed, of which I couldn't even move. Now, I remember the exact day that I left that hospital. It was 10th February. Yeah. So 10th February is the day that now I left the hospital in Tanzania, and I was driven all the way to Mata Hospital in an ambulance. Yeah. From Tanzania to the border, it was an ambulance from that hospital. Then we took, was it Red Cross, picked me from the border. It's crazy. The things that the border sees. So yeah, all the way to the hospital, and my doctor sees me. They take so many tests, and one of the tests that they had to take again. So in the hospital, I told you they're not doing much, yeah? And it got to a point where they they're almost also ruining my other internal organs. In this sense is, so that given me a catheter, yeah? A catheter is a pipe that they put in your urinary tract so that it helps you pass urine, yeah? Because I was very much immobile. That hospital did not frequently remove that catheter, clean it. So the doctor sees it and he sees some white stuff and he's like, when was the last time? And I'm like, were they even supposed to remove it? Yeah, and it's like, no, you have to go take tests for this urine as well. And I'm like, oh wow. So it was like also a panic, like that they're receiving a patient that has been, not well been treated for nearly 2 months. It was what? Yeah, 2 months, 10th, because it was 8th December to January to February. That was 2 months and 2 days. So yeah, as you can imagine, I'd already had some infections, some urinary infections. Yeah, so the doctor's like, yeah, there's so many things that we need to really get out for. So they started treating the urinary infection. Then they did now an they did MRI and a CT scan. So MRI, it's an acronym for a physical term. Yeah, it's better than the X-ray, and therefore it showed exactly where the injury was, the level of injury of the nerves as well. So basically it gave a clear picture. And the doctor kept saying, if this child was brought in here just on the day of the accident, things wouldn't have been the way they are right now, because now it had already started to stiffen. You know how wounds are, when you injure, it tries healing on its own. So if it's not in a corrective manner, it will just end up in that way. So then they look at the CT scan. The CT scan was for the head, and thankfully the head was still fine. I mean, no wonder I never lost my consciousness. Yeah, and the doctor's like, we need to do a surgery for her now, a corrective surgery to, remove. It was my spine was pressed, so they had to remove the discs and put in a plate. Basically, it was to just correct how the spine flows. But already it was a bit late, so they did what they could. And yeah, I remember my doctor till today. I had two of them, but the one who I still remember was called Dr. Akuku. And Dr. Akuku would come to me and to tell me, Jeremiah 29, yeah? Weirdly, it was my first time hearing of Jeremiah 29. But my doctor would tell me, everything's gonna be fine. You'll be running here in March. Yeah, then the other one was just the opposite. He would say, why are you crying? Stop, we need to do this right now. He was the one who was dealing with my bones, so he would just come and touch me and, like, not in a manner of, oh, she's a patient, I have to be, gentle, but I think he's just used to patience. So with me, I think he was trying to build in that strong side of me. But Dr. Cook was more of trying to be fatherly, gently, trying to give me hope. Yeah, then on 21st of March, that's when they said, okay, now we just need to discharge her. In between the hospital, there's so many things that happened, which I can't speak right now of because that's another story. But yeah, I got discharged. And I remember on the day that they were discharging me, the nurse came and she was like, oh, you guys have a pharmacy. You're going to carry a whole pharmacy, because we had so many drugs, so many medication. And remember this day when I told you the first time when we went to this facility, there was this nurse who put the drip and they couldn't do it well. So now I stayed long enough in the hospital to a point where I remember this time they're coming to do some blood tests. I had lost so much kilos and now they're very much concerned about my blood levels. So this nurse comes in and she tries to take the blood tests and the samples. I just look at her and I tell her, I've tried. I've tried assuming that this thing is not painful. I have tried, and God knows I have tried. But today, I don't think I can handle it. Please just feel pity on me. Please just don't prick me. She was convinced. I think she was even heartbroken. She had to leave. The following day, they had to bring in somebody else to come and take me samples. But it got to a point where I was really trying to be strong for myself, and then I realized that things are not getting any better. So I was like, I'm done. So now on the last day, with there's so many drugs that they were taking, and I remember asking mom, will Patrick be at home? I asked her because I was like, I wouldn't want to see Patrick see me on the wheelchair. Because by then I didn't even know how to use crutches. I was on the wheelchair. And um so my mom said, yeah, Patrick will be at home, yeah? But you have to be strong and you have to go and do exercises so that you get better. And now Patrick will feel better. Patrick will not feel bad. I was like, okay. So I went home. I remember I was just down the sitting room. I couldn't go upstairs, of course. I mean, I was very much immobile. I couldn't even make footsteps. I couldn't even sit for long. Sitting was a problem. So my doctors were like, she really needs to start training how to sit, because all these 3, almost 4 months, I was just lying flat. Yeah, I was 4 months, I would like to think. Yeah, I was just lying flat on the bed, and therefore, if it was turning right or left, nurses would have to come and move me with the bed sheet. So now I had to start training how to sit, and which it used to be a very difficult thing for me, because they'll say you need to sit for at least 2 minutes, just 2 minutes, and I would say no, it's too much, I cannot. Yeah, then I think with time, slowly I got used to sitting, and that was one of the biggest milestone. Like, oh, finally she can now sit. Yeah, then later I started doing some therapy at home, and would occasionally go to the hospital for checkups with so many drugs that, gosh, I even actually got stomach ulcers from the medication that I was receiving. Yeah. So then with time, I asked, please, can I stop taking this medicine? Please, can I stop? Because it got to a point where if I would just see the drugs, like they're packed in a box, yeah? But if they would remove it, I would see it, I would start puking. Like, I was traumatized now. Yeah, I was like, please, can I just stop them? They're actually hurting me. They're not doing me any good. Then I think after weeks of convincing them, my therapist was like, it's fine. She can stop taking the medications. So slowly, I think I started picking up, with my appetite. I would eat only 2 tablespoons. And I would feel like it was so much of food. But it's because my body was just done. And with rehabilitation at home, slowly, before I realize it, it's 2 years. We're almost starting the 3rd year. Yeah? And now my therapist is like, she has stayed home long enough. We now need to look for her school.
Catch more African stories in the next episode of Legally Clueless. Oof, what a powerful story. She is so honest about even the moments where she felt like, I'm not strong enough to handle this. A lot of times you hear stories and everybody just talks about how they pushed on through and they showed up, but like, she's honest. These moments where she's like, I didn't feel like I had it in me. And what is so wonderful that I found about the story, at the very beginning when she's introducing herself and she says, hey, I am a graduate of the University of Oxford. And when I was listening, I was like, why did she say that? And I know we're only halfway through her story, but it feels good to know where we're going. You know what I mean? Like, everything is paused, but slowly she starts trying again. She starts showing up and she starts thriving. Yeah, that's all coming up in part 2, which is going to be out next Monday. And I would love to know what you connected with in part 1. So wherever it is you're listening to this, please drop a comment. I love hearing from you. And so make sure you subscribe so that you don't miss out on part 2, which is out next week. If you'd love to share your story on the podcast, you can find our storyteller link in the show notes. Fill it out and one of our correspondents is going to get back to you. Don't forget, tickets for our wellness talk, Becoming the Woman You Want to Be, are 50% sold out. They're just 1,000 bob. Grab them now before they're gone. A link is in the show notes. And until next time, thank you so much for listening to this episode to the very end. I truly appreciate you. I love that you're part of this family. And as usual, I think that you have every single thing it takes to heal. That's it for this episode of Legally Clueless. You can share this podcast with your friends. You can keep it for yourself. I'm not judging. Just make sure you're here next week for the next episode.